bucket list things happening today. I am playing on my first ever Poker Night in America live stream, and I'm here at the studio with all these people. It's gonna be an amazing time. So let's get in there, play some hands, get some good ones for the vlog, and of course have fun and hopefully make some money.
Also somebody who needs no introduction.
The crusher of the table.
Yeah, the crusher. The one that I would stay away from if I was playing this lineup. Poker Face Ash.
Let's go. Poker face Ash, you know, musician, basketball player, Poker Bros official
Just an
sponsor.
all-American basketball player. I mean, just obviously a woman of many talents.
Well, this is definitely a checkmark off the poker bucket list, as I've always watched Poker Night in America ever since I got passionate about poker, so to be on the live stream with fellow content creators is a night to remember. Also, getting to know these guys, playing some basketball, hanging out before the stream, and hearing how passionate they are about content creation honestly gave me a huge rejuvenation and re-inspiration to continue on this content creator journey. Sometimes it can be daunting, it can get discouraging and frustrating as you put so much work and effort into vlogs and they don't always do as well as you'd hoped. But just to see the passion these guys have and how inspired they are to make it in this YouTube world was very re-inspiring, and I'm ready to not only continue my vlogs but also change it up a little bit and incorporate more of what I used to do in my vlogs, making them more about lifestyle and poker. So I hope you guys enjoy the little changes coming on these vlogs. So let's get into it. We have the 5-5 Poker Night in America content creator cash game, and guess what? The 7-deuce game is on and I get dealt it quite a bit. So you're in for a treat. Let's get into some hands. We are playing 5-5 1,000 max buy-in and the 7-deuce game is on. So if you win with 7-deuce, everyone at the table has to pay you $25. So we're playing 5-5, but the $10 straddle was on almost the whole night, and in the very first hand I get involved in, I am in the $10 straddle and it folds all the way around to the small blind, who is on tilt poker. He is a loose cannon, very hard to play against, as he can literally have any two cards and he's not afraid to put the pressure on. He raised to $30. Frankie folds in the big blind and now it's on me. We can go either way between calling and raising, however let's keep the pot manageable and try to play this pot in position post flop. So I call and we go heads up to a flop. The flop is Queen 6-5 monotone all club board, so this is actually a really great board for us because we have some backdoor straight outs, we don't have clubs, but we can put pressure on pretty much every single one of my opponent's holdings. On tilt checks it over to me and we have a clear-cut bet here as we are trying to win the pot. However, because this is a monotone texture, we don't need to go too big. We can bet pretty small and get a lot of his hands to fold. I bet $35. He pretty much snap folds, and the very first hand of the night, we get to flip over the 7-deuce and collect this nice bounty and the pot. The $10 straddle is on in this one, and it folds around to me on the button, and I have Queen 6 suited. We are 6-handed, so ranges are going to be a lot wider here, a lot more 3-betting, because we're playing a 6-max game. I raise it up to $35, and Corey, who's in the straddle, wakes up with Ace-Jack offsuit. He opts to call, so we're going to go heads up to a flop of Queen 4 deuce with 2 hearts and 1 diamond. He checks it over to me, and we have clear value bet here. We can get called by a 4, a pair of deuces, and some of his backdoor ace-high type hands, so I bet $25. Corey, with his ace-high, makes the call, so we're going to head to a turn card, which is the 5 of spades. Corey checks again, and I think we have another value bet here. We do pick up a little additional equity with our gut shot straight draw, and plus, if Corey has a hand like 5-6, 4-3 suited, something like that, he's going to have to continue, and we can continue to extract value from these hands. So I go for about a half pot bet, hoping to get called by some pairs and ace highs, heart draws, but he lets it go fairly quickly and we take down another pot. In this hand, it folds around to the button to on tilt, and he raises it up to $40 after just getting felted, so he has a brand new stack of 1,000. I'm in the big blind and look down at ace-5 of clubs. I can go either way here between 3-betting and calling, and this time I chose to call. The straddle folds, so now we're going to go heads up to a flop of King 7-4 with 2 clubs, so we flop backdoor straight draw and a nut flush draw. I check it over to him, and he checks back. The turn is the 6 of diamonds, so now we pick up an open ender and our nut flush draw. I'm not going to let this one check through. We have so much equity, and if we get raised, we can withstand aggression and perhaps even do some fun re-raising, so I put out a bet of $50, around half pot. He thinks for a little bit since he did pick up a gutter, but then lets it go, and we pick up another pot, and things are smooth sailing at this point. I have the $10 straddle on in this hand, and Casino King in the hijack raises it up to $30. It folds around to me in the $10 straddle, and I look down at a hand that in theory is a fold. However, I didn't come all the way to Poker Night in America to not defend my straddle, so I put in the call and we head to a flop of King 8-5 rainbow, so we flop ourselves top pair. I check it over to Casino King, and on this board texture, pretty dry and king high, Casino King is going to be betting this board with his entire range. Casino King goes for a very interesting bet size of almost full pot of $60, which means he's going to plan on either checking the turn or continue to polarize and pull out, meaning he's going to be repping a very nutted hand. But we have top pair, not the greatest kicker in the world, so while I'm not loving it, we of course have to put in the call. The turn is a 7 of spades, bringing in the backdoor flush draw, but even better, it improves our hand to 2 pair. So at this point, I'm really hoping my opponent has a very strong hand like aces or ace king. So we're not going to do anything here other than put in the check, and then sadly, Casino King checks back. So now his hand is looking a lot like a showdown value hand or an ace high type hand like ace jack, ace queen perhaps. I think his backdoor spade hands continue firing here, and a lot of other hands like perhaps some queen high type hands have no choice but to continue barreling. So we must have a showdown hand or an above average ace high type hand. So we head to a river card, which is another king. So now we have a full house kings full of sevens. Because I think my opponent is more leaning towards a showdown driven hand or a very strong ace high, I can't let this one check through, as my opponent might not continue betting with his ace highs or his worst pairs. So I put out a bet of $100. Casino King snap folds, and now you guys get to see he had the ace queen offsuit with the ace of spades. So he did have a strong ace high, and he chose to give up after putting in a large flop bet, so we take down a very nice pot. We are 5, 5, 10, 20 in this hand, and it folds around to me on the button, and I look down at Seven-deuce offsuit. Oh boy, here we go. The table had been playing relatively tight so far. There had been a couple hands where I raised and took it down pre-flop. So in this case, I think if I go a little bit bigger, I can get a bunch of hands to fold and then just take this one down pre-flop. So I go for a little bit bigger of a sizing of $100. Well, my plan is not going to work this time, as Casino King wakes up with pocket jacks in the small blind, and he raises to $350. It folds back around to me, and unfortunately, the only thing that's kind of limiting my maneuverability to try and win this hand post-flop is the fact that Casino King only has $580 behind, so he's committed a very big chunk of his stack pre-flop. I can't flat and then take this one to the streets, and if I shove, I probably don't have much fold equity, as he's probably calling off if he's going to be raising this big. So unfortunately, because of stack sizes, I have to let this one go. We only burn $100, could have been much worse, but we're gonna move on to the next one. I play another hand against on-tilt poker in this one, as I raise the cutoff with king-jack offsuit. It folds around to on-tilt poker in the $10 straddle. He makes the call with the 6-4 offsuit, so we are going to go heads up to a flop. The flop is great for our hand. It's jack-10 deuce with 2 diamonds, so we flop ourselves top pair with a king kicker. On-tilt poker checks over his 6 high, and now it's on me. On a jack-10 deuce flush draw board, generally we want to be going a little bit bigger or checking. I guess betting small is okay some of the time. Our opponent, being in the straddle, is going to be defending with a very wide range of hands, so there's a lot of continues for him, so we want to charge those hands. However, in game, I chose to go for a size of $35, a little bit on the smaller side. Then, to no surprise at all, on-tilt poker puts in the check raise to $100. Against some opponents, I would not be loving this at all. However, against a player like On Tilt, flopping this strong of a hand, we are very happy to continue here. And when facing decisions after being raised, we need to ask ourselves 2 questions. 1, does our hand have showdown value? And 2, does our hand want to repolarize? Of course, our hand has showdown value. We have a very strong hand with top pair and king kicker. But does our hand want to repolarize? No, it doesn't, because we want to keep all of his worst hands in and all of his bluffs in. If we re-raise here or jam, we get all worst hands to fold, and we only get called by hands that have us beat, or that have a ton of equity against our exact holding. So I'm not going to do anything except put in the call and hope that he continues to blast off. Like I said, On Tilt poker is very tough to play against. He's not afraid to get in the mix and put the aggression on. So now the 3 of spades rolls off on the turn, and luckily for us, it gives him more equity as he picks up a gut shot. So this is not going to slow him down. He's going to continue firing, and he puts out a bet size of $200. At this point, against this player type, we have a pure call, so we are going to put 200 chips in and then see a river. The river rolls off the 9 of hearts, and now On Tilt poker thinks for a little bit and then lands on a check. Now given this check raise on the flop and a big bet on the turn, when he checks it over to me, we have top pair. At this point, I'm happy to get to showdown, although we could certainly jam for value. The 9 of hearts isn't the best card in the world, as it does complete some 2 pairs and straights. However, we do block the best straight being king queen, so we're gonna check behind. On tilt poker flips over his 6-4 offsuit, and we flip over our hand and scoop a very healthy pot. In this one, I'm first to act under the gun with pocket 9s. Then Casino King on my immediate left puts in the 3-bet to $80. Folds back around to me, and I look at his stack and he only has $420 behind. If he has a hand like Ace King, Ace Queen, Ace Jack suited, Ace 10 suited, pocket 8s, something like that, we are in great shape and I don't mind flipping for stacks. So I am going to go ahead and put in the 4-bet. So I raised to 460, so if he wants to call, it's gonna be for all of his chips. He thinks for a while, as you can see, he's trying to think what types of hands I would do this with. He thinks and then lands on a call. I tell him it's up to him if he wants to run it once or twice, because really I'm indifferent and it doesn't matter, especially in this 5-5 game. So he says let's run it twice, and here's what happened.
Nobody wants to, up to you. Nobody wants to,
Yeah, you're ahead. This is the best pair?
very superstitious.
Oh, that's a terrible flop for me.
My guy hit a jag.
My guy needs to
Like, how am I good here with 9s?
I hope you have ace king, I guess.
Yeah, you have ace 8 suited, I'm guessing.
We're gonna get to see a bet Rivers River here.
put in that family.
Is it gonna be a spicy one? We need to.
Bink?
No. The first board's gonna go to poker face Ash. He's gonna secure half. They go once.
Oh,
Okay.
spades are so
Okay,
loud.
no, they're going twice.
Phil-
Secured half the pot.
Feels so nice to win that first one. Oh!
7. The run bad continues. You're gonna need runner here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Oh, just quads. Yeah, it's just quads on the second run out.
Yeah.
Ran out. Well, I'm glad we ran it twice, so we just know.
I would have been very happy to just win one board, but we in fact get the scoop. We win both boards, and for good measure, we make quads. Casino King ended up having ace 10 of spades, so we are in pretty good shape flipping for this big pot. The stakes are getting higher, chips are flying a little bit more in this game, and now the $20 straddle is on. And now it's on Frankie in the cutoff, and he looks down at Jack 10 offsuit, and he makes it $60. I'm next to act and look down at pocket 6s. A majority of the time, this hand is just going to be a flat on the button. It functions well being in position, and it is a pair that we're trying to set mine with. However, in this game, I wanted to push my equity a little bit and be more on the aggressive side, so we're going to turn this hand into a 3-bet, and I don't need to go big being in position, so I make it $180. Then Casino King in the small blind wakes up with pocket 7s, and this is one of the reasons why putting in a 3-bet with this hand functions really well. We get a lot of hands that have equity or have us crushed to fold. So Casino King does think for quite a while, but then lands on the fold. Frankie now facing a 3-bet from the button with a hand like Jack 10 offsuit is just gonna be a fold, so we get this one through, get pocket 7s to fold, and Frankie's over cards, so we are happy and we'll take this one down. In this one, I'm in the $10 straddle, and there are 3 limpers, and it's on me now, and I look down at Queen Jack offsuit. In other games with different dynamics, I would opt to raise this one pretty big and hope to take it down pre-flop against a bunch of weak ranges. However, against these players, I'm not going to get this through enough of the time, I don't think, with this hand. So let's just see a flop. We go 4 ways to a flop of King, Queen, 10 with 2 hearts, so we flop ourselves middle pair, open-ender, and a backdoor flush draw. This is a board that I'm going to be leading on. Our opponents shouldn't have very strong hands. The only hand realistically here that might decide to limp is a hand like Queen 10. Anything else here that makes the nuts my opponents should not have. So it folds around to Frankie and he makes the call. The turn is the 9 of hearts, so now we have a straight with the Jack of hearts in case we need it. Frankie checks it over to me again, and now we're going to continue going for value, and I bet $50. Frankie pretty much snap folds, and he ends up having King 7 of spades, so we flop top pair, and then the board just got really terrible for his hand, and he finds a good fold. In this mystery hand, Casino King raises under the gun to $30. It folds all the way around to me in the $10 straddle, and I look down at the beautiful Queen 10 of diamonds. I'm going to be putting in the call here, so we are going to go heads up to a flop of Ace King 3 with 2 clubs. Not going to be doing anything on this ace high board except checking it over to Casino King, and he puts out a bet of $30. This is a good bet size by him. I think he's going to be doing this with the majority of his range. We have a gutter to the nuts. We're going to peel one and hope to hit a jack. So I toss in the $30 $50 and we head to a turn card, which is the Jack of Clubs. So we do make the nut straight. I check. Casino King bets $75. The club flush does come in, however, we're not overly concerned about it. I think I'm gonna just call here and see if we can extract a little bit more from Casino King. So I put in the call and we head to a river card. The river is a pretty big brick. It's the 4 of hearts. If Casino King is value betting a hand like pocket aces, pocket kings, ace king, ace jack, ace queen, ace 10, we want to extract value from all of those. In the moment, I thought it was best to lead out for some value and I bet $150. Well, now we get to see Casino King's mystery hand as he shows it to me during the hand. He had 7-deuce offsuit. So hindsight is 2020. If I knew he had 7-deuce, I should have just checked it over to him and hopefully he would have blasted off and we would have picked up a very, very nice pot. However, we're still running really well in this game and doing great, and now we're up over $1,000. In this hand, it folds all the way over to on tilt poker on the button and he raises it to $35. I look down at King 10 offsuit in the big blind, and if I'm going to play this one, I think I prefer to 3-bet it. It's not a very strong hand, and I think against on tilt poker's wide range, we can navigate this post flop and hopefully take it down. So I make it $130. It folds it back around to on tilt and he puts in the call, so we're going to go heads up to a flop. The flop is Queen 4-3 with 2 hearts, so we whiff, but we do have a few backdoor opportunities. So again, we are out of position facing a very loose button range against a player like on tilt. So at the time, I thought it would be best and look strongest if we went for the check, and if he bets, we're going to put in a raise. So I do check it over to him and he bets $110. I know on tilt poker is going to be betting a huge range of hands when I check it over to him in this 3-bet pot, so I'm not overly concerned he has much of anything at all. Plus, when I did show aggression or did put in bets or raises, he was pretty quick to fold a lot of his junk and air napkin hands that whiffed. So when he bets, now I can rep a monster strong hand and put in the check raise to $300. Again, remember, just because you 3-bet pre-flop, when you're out of position, you can still retain nutted hands when you check it over to your opponent. So I thought this was a good spot to kind of implement that strategy. On tilt poker doesn't think very long before putting in the call. So now when he calls, I know he's very unlikely to have air at this point. He probably has something like a flush draw, an open ender, a pair, something that he's not planning on folding because he is pretty sticky. So now because I went for this check raise line after 3-betting, I think I can just give up on most turn cards, and if he puts in any aggression, we just have to let this hand go. So we head to a turn card, which is the ace of spades, bringing in the double flush draw. So at the time, I thought once he calls my raise on the flop, I just need to give it up. However, I think I would have liked to jam this card, although I'm not quite sure what I'd be recommending this spot. I guess a hand like ace king of hearts, ace queen suited, ace queen offsuit, etc. Of course, I can still have all the nutted hands, even a hand like pocket queens. So I do shut down, and I don't like this line at all. I think if I'm going to take that line and then bink the ace on the turn, I think I should just be going for it. At the time, I think I was concerned he could easily have like the ace high flush draw, so a hand like ace 5 of hearts, something like that. So I do shut it down, and then he ends up going all in as expected, and unfortunately we have to let this one go. I went a little bit outside the box on this one. I was trying to get a little bit tricky and a little bit fancy, and it did not work out, and now we can see that my opponent had Jack 5 of hearts. So with this player type, he was not going anywhere. I guess I just got a little bit unlucky to get that particular flop against him, where he wasn't going to be letting his hand go anytime soon. Nice hand on tilt poker. In this hand, on tilt poker limps the hijack and it folds around to me on the button, and I look down at ace 10 offsuit. We're definitely going to be raising this one up, and I make it $40. On tilt poker makes the call, so we are going to go heads up to a flop of jack 9-9 with 2 diamonds. On tilt checks it over to me, and we're going to c-bet this board. We don't need to go too big on this paired board. I make it $30. He makes the call, so we head to a turn card, which is the king of diamonds. This isn't only good for my exact hand, but it's great for my range. So we pick up the ace high flush draw and some straight outs, and he checks it over to me yet again, and I bet $80, and he lets his hand go, and he had pocket deuces. In this hand, Corey in the cutoff raises to $50 with the $20 straddle on. It folds around to me in the big blind, and I look down at pocket jacks. Because we're in the big blind and we have the straddle to our left to worry about, we can go a little bit bigger here, and I raise to $200. Corey doesn't seem convinced. I think he was even thinking about putting in the 4-bet, but he ends up letting his hand go, and we take it down with the pocket jacks. In this hand, the 5-5-10 straddle is on, and it folds me in the cutoff, and I look down at 7-deuce offsuit. We are still playing the 7-deuce game, so I'm going to raise it up to $40, try to thin the field, and see if we can win this hand and collect the bounties. Casino King pretty much snap calls my raise on the button, which usually signifies weakness when a player doesn't think very long before putting in a call. So we are going to go heads up to a flop of 8-5 deuce rainbow, so we do flop bottom pair. Because we have the 7-deuce, we have a pair, and we want to try to fold out some of his equity, we're going to continue barreling, and I bet $30. We don't want to be betting too big out of position. He makes the call, so we head to a turn card, which is the 7 of diamonds, so now we're not going to need a lot of help in this hand as we turn to pair. I check it over to Casino King, although I should just continue firing here. I'm not sure what I was thinking in the moment. Hey, it happens. The river is the jack of spades, and now we're going to go for some value, but Casino King folds very, very quickly, and we get to slam down our 7-deuce offsuit and pick up $25 from each player and this pot. In this hand, Frankie raises to $30 under the gun, and I'm next to act with 5-6 of hearts. I put in the call. Well, the entire table thinks it's a good idea because we are going to go to a family pot of King Jack 3 with 2 hearts, so we flop ourselves a backdoor straight draw and the heart flush draw. Frankie with the mystery hand bets into 5 people for $75. We have the 6-high flush draw. I don't think we're going to do much other than make the call here, so we end up calling and everyone else folds, so we are going to go heads up to a turn card. The turn is the deuce of hearts, so we do make our flush, and now Frankie checks it over to me. I think this is where I start making mistakes a lot of the time, and I need to get better at making my bet sizes a little bit bigger and paying attention more to the pot size. So it's something I need to learn playing live cash games and improve on. But I do pick a bet size of $150. I would have liked to see myself go at least $200 in this spot. But Frankie thinks for a little bit and then makes the call, so we head to a river card. The river's an offsuit for changing nothing, and Frankie checks it over to me yet again. At this point, he had raised pre-flop, bet into 5 people on the flop, and then check called my bet on the turn. So at this point, I think he's heavily weighted towards a hand like King Queen, King Jack, and perhaps maybe a hand like Ace Queen with the Ace of Hearts. So my hand looks a lot like a flush at this point, especially when there's 6 people in the hand. It's so highly likely that one of us had a flush draw. So because my hand looks kind of face up, I want to try to bet a little bit of a milky size and get his 2 pairs and very strong pairs to call. So I land on a bet size of $225. I think in hindsight, I would like to go a little bit bigger here, at least go about half pot or a little bit more. But Frankie, getting a good price, decides to call, and Frankie's mystery hand is King Jack offsuit. So he did in fact flop top 2 pair, turned the heart flush draw, and then I end up getting paid by his 2 pair on the river, so we pick up a very, very healthy pot. In this one, Frankie raises the hijack with King Jack offsuit to $30. I'm next to act and look down at pocket 10s. I'm going to put in the 3-bet and I make it $80. Then Corey is in the big blind and he decides to put in the cold 4-bet to $280. Folds back around to me, and Corey hasn't gotten very out of line this entire stream. He's been playing pretty solid, so I'm not loving this spot facing a 4-bet from Corey in the big blind, but he still can retain hands like Ace King, Ace Queen suited, and if he has a hand like Aces, Kings, Queens, or Jacks and we flop a set, we can win a really big pot. So I think I'm going to call and see if we can navigate this one post flop. So I do in fact call, and we are going to go heads up to a flop of Ace, Jack, 8 with 2 spades. Corey is out of position here, but we are in a 4-bet pot, so I expect him to continue with his entire range for a very small sizing, and that's exactly what he does. He bets $150. We don't flop much of anything for our hand, and unfortunately don't hit our set. So this board is pretty terrible for us, and we're just gonna have to let our hand go. And Corey's mystery hand is pocket queens, so we are in pretty rough shape there. I'm not sure we are getting the exact implied odds to make this call pre-flop. However, we're just gonna have to let this one go and move on to the next one. In this hand, the 5-5 $10 straddle is on, and I open up the action to $35 from the cutoff with pocket jacks. Folds around to Corey in the big blind, and he 3-bets to $140. Folds back around to me, and in these stream games, a hand like pocket jacks is just a super premium hand. A lot of times players will get out of the line and 3-bet hands pretty light. Like for example, Corey could be 3-betting a hand like Ace 9 of clubs. He can also just have a hand like Ace King, Ace Queen, etc. So we want to deny equity to all of those hands. Our hand is very, very vulnerable, even to a hand like Ace 9, it still has over 30% equity against us. So I'm going to raise to a size that leverages stacks, and so I raised to $535. And I know that seems massive, however, I'm just trying to play for stacks at this point, and if we're flipping against a hand like Ace King or Ace Queen, that's totally fine. I'm not folding pocket jacks pre-flop, and I want to give myself very clear-cut answers going forward. For example, if I peel in position and we see an Ace, King, or Queen on the flop, it's going to be very hard to navigate post, so let's just make our decision easy and bump it up. Corey thinks for quite a while. He doesn't look like he wants to let his hand go, and then he lands on a fold, and Corey did end up having ace queen, so pretty decent result there for us, getting a hand that has a ton of equity against us to fold pre-flop, and we pick up a decent amount of dead money. I also want to tell you guys about a super exciting tournament series coming up in Biloxi, Mississippi, the Beau Rivage Heater Tournament Series. It's going to be going on January 4th through 15th with over $3 million in guarantees. The opening event is a $400 buy-in, and then the main event is going to be a $1,200 buy-in with a $1 million guarantee. It's going to be a blast. I would love to see you all there. Make sure you guys put it on your calendars. In this one, the $20 straddle is on, and I look down at Jack 10 of hearts on the button, and so I'm gonna raise it up and make it $60. My nemesis on tilt poker makes the call, so we are going to go heads up to a flop against a mystery hand of ace 5-3 with 2 spades. He checks it over to me, and even though we don't have much going for our hand, we do have some barreling opportunities on certain turn cards, and we do have a bit of range advantage, so I put out a bet of $40. He makes the call. The turn is one of those barreling cards I was talking about. It's the King of Hearts. He checks yet again, and I think now we can start to shave off a lot of his weaker pairs like a 3, a 5, and we do turn a bit more equity with our gut shot, so I bet $125. He makes the call yet again, so unless we improve on the river, my plan is to shut down because I think I'm going to have a very hard time getting him to fold any type of ace-x hand at this point. The river is the 3 of clubs, and now on tilt poker checks yet again. At this point, I'm just going to give up. I don't see how I can be good here, and I don't see how I can get my opponent to fold unless I do something crazy. So I check, and he flips over the mystery hand, 8-7 of spades, so we get to show our jack high, and we are good. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time to put on those seatbelts and buckle up. We are almost done with the stream. We have about 20 minutes left and the stand-up game is on. Cody and I are the only ones left with our knit buttons. On tilt poker limps the cutoff with a mystery hand. I'm then in the small blind and look down at pocket kings. I'm gonna make it a lot bigger here, especially because we're playing the stand-up game. Ranges are gonna be a lot wider, players are gonna be stickier, and I have a lot of incentive to just win the pot. So I raise to $75. Cody then puts in the 3-bet
$475
to $475 from the big blind. Then, just as soon as he does that, on tilt poker rips all in. What in the world is going on? A limp, raise, 3-bet, 4-bet jam, and I'm sitting here with pocket kings. This is what I've waited for all night. I've built my stack up from $1,000 all the way up to $2,000. The night's about to end, and I have an absolute dream spot. Before I can go all in, Cody forgets that I have cards in front of me and puts his chips in to call, and I have to stop him in a very awkward way because I also don't want to give away the strength of my hand, and I don't want to be rude, of course, so I gently and quietly said, "I'm still in the hand, hang on 1 second," and then put a little smile on, hoping to not give away too many tells, although it was a very, very weird spot to be in. So I think for a little bit, but we all know what I'm gonna do. I slide the rest of my $1,700 into the middle. Now Cody, of course, thinks for a little bit, but then thinks better of it and puts in the fold. And now I'm going heads up all in against on tilt poker with pocket kings in this $5,000 pot. Here's what happened.
Really?
How many times? Just go once, just go once.
I had a pair.
An ace?
No, I didn't.
Do you have a jack? Okay, that's what I
Nah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you run bad, that's bad. Oh shit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just once.
I made an Instagram reel about this hand, and you can check it out on my Instagram at pokerface_ash. A lot of people were saying, what's the big deal? Your opponent had 30% equity. I don't know why you think this hand is so sick. Well, you know what? A lot of factors come into poker hands, and for one, I don't play $5,000 pots nearly as frequently as you think I do, so all of these spots are pretty big for me. Secondly, I was playing the WPT Win Poker Series and decided to take most of my action for the first time in a long time, and I had bricked everything. So this pot would have put me back in the green for the trip and set me up for a very, very nice, much needed profit on the night. So going into this with pocket kings versus ace king, my opponent only has 3 outs. It really, really hurt. Of course, it's poker. Yes, I know it's gonna happen. It happens to me all the time in tournaments. However, this one stung just a little bit. Nice hand on tilt poker. Wish I could have held up there and won this massive pot. I would have been so ecstatic, but we're gonna just have to take this one on the chin and end the stream on a somewhat sour note. out.
That stream game was definitely a bucket list item and also one of my highlights of 2023. This is going to be the last vlog of 2023. This was my best year in poker I've ever had. Not only that, but also my first year of really going full force with poker tournaments. Didn't play a ton of cash. I'm going to put my total 2023 stats right here for you guys to check out. Super amazing year, obviously, and you know what? I have appreciated the support so freaking much. So unfortunately, we were in the game tonight for $2,000, cashed out with $980 for a loss of over $1,000. If you guys enjoyed the vlog, would you do me a huge favor and go all in and like, comment, and subscribe? It would mean the world to me. We are just getting started. It's only up from here. I'll see you guys in 2024.